All right, so I will now call to order the regular meeting of the Baja Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation or Watsonville Community Hospital Board of Directors for Wednesday, July 30th. Rosie, can you please give us a roll call?
Yes, Director Fox. Here. Director Creel. Here. Director Gallagher.
Here.
Director Pimentel.
Here.
And Chair Needham.
Here. There's nothing to report from tonight's closed session. I'll now ask if there's any agenda modifications for consideration of the board from staff. Nope. Okay, seeing none, I'll move us on to public comment on matters not on tonight's agenda. Rosie, any raised hands online wishing to speak?
No hands online.
Please. Be very strict on your 2 minutes, Jen, so.
You heard all right. Jennifer Gannon, Director of Pharmacy. Gold status for the Antimicrobial Stewardship Honor Roll Program for CDPH. If you remember, about 4 or 5 months ago, we came and we said that we had silver status, and Steve challenged us to go for gold, and we just received gold status designation last week. And what this means is, I'm reading from their website. So the CDPH Healthcare Associated Infection Program is pleased to recognize top performing antimicrobial stewardship programs, ASD in California. The goals of the ASD honor roll are to promote optimal use of antimicrobials, prevent emergence of antimicrobial resistance and C. difficile infections, and to showcase California Healthcare Facility ASD that not only follows national guidelines, but also demonstrates clinically meaningful outcomes for stewardship interventions and engage their local healthcare community. So we did a great job. We did a good presentation. We got silver. What pushed us over the edge to gold was engagement with our partners at Salute. So I personally like to thank for myself and the facility, a couple different folks, groups. Dr. Kong has been fantastic. He's our ID provider, and Salute for joining us to get gold. So thank you for letting me speak, and I think I'm under defense.
Nice job. Thank you, thank you. Seeing no other people in attendance, I'll go back one more time on online. Anyone wishing to speak on items not on tonight's agenda?
No
Okay,
hands online.
seeing no raised hands, I'll move us on from the public comment to board member comments. Anybody wishing to speak from the board before we get into the consent agenda? Okay, then I will close down the board, the comments from our board members. I'll go to our consent agenda. We have 2 items tonight. Rosie, I can read them. It's just the minutes approval from our June 25th, 2025 meeting, and then our policy summary approval for this month, July 2025. Before I go out to public comment, any questions on either of these 2 items from our board for staff? Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll open up the public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on our 2 consent calendar items tonight online?
Okay.
Anyone in person? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move approval of consent.
One second.
Thank you. Have Directors Pimentel and Creel. I'll take roll on this item. Director Fox.
Yes.
Director Creel.
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Director Pimentel.
Yes.
And Chair Needham.
Yes, okay. Now we'll move on to our discussion items. And our first item of the night is the Medical Executive Committee's report approval for July 2025. This is an extension of the closed session report that we got from Dr. Christopher O'Grady, our Chief of Staff. Any questions from the board to staff about this before I go into public comment for this item? Okay, seeing no questions, I'll close down the comment or the questions, and I'll go out to the public for any comments on this. No,
No hands.
seeing no hands. No one here as well, so I'll close in the public comment and entertain a motion on item number 3.
Move approval.
One second.
Directors Gallagher and Fox. Thank you. I'll take roll on this item. Director Fox.
Yes.
Director Creel.
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Director Pimentel.
Yes.
And Chair Needham.
Yes. Okay, I'll move on to item number 4, and it's a CFO monthly financial performance update. Julie, whenever you're ready.
As Rosie brings this up, I will just tell you that June was another tough month for us. Our EBITDA loss was 1.3 million for the month, and our overall loss was 1.4 million. You know, our volumes have continued to be low, and so it really impacts the net operating revenues. That's a big impact. First time, thank you. And, you know, it really impacts us. You see the most unfavorability in the labor, because it's really hard to staff down to the lower volumes with staffing ratios and just kind of core services. So we have been doing work in trying to aggressively close down units when the volumes are down, and we kind of consolidate within other units. We evaluate our staffing pretty much every week when we're having our kind of staffing committee and looking at any open positions, determining whether we really need to fill those at this time. And generally, they're replacement positions. A lot of times they're at night, and you know, so there is still a need to fill them in to have coverage, but we do go through that exercise every week. We've also recently done some leadership consolidations to, as we've had some leaders leave, and rather than filling one for one, we've looked for those sorts of opportunities, and we'll continue to do that. The other line item that probably sticks out the most with unfavorable is purchase services. A lot of that is driven by our legal fees. We have a lot of things that we need to run through legal because of our government status. And there's just so many things to be careful of there and make sure that we're doing everything appropriately. We've also, as we look at different types of funding arrangements, funding opportunities, a lot of times we require some legal review there. And we're doing a fair amount of work on some leases right now that have also required some legal help. And then the last thing I would mention is, you know, whenever we have a Public Records Act inquiry, there's a lot of data that needs to go through the legal team to evaluate what's being sent out. So that has been, those have been the two main drivers. You know, overall, we have a favorable variance, but it's not really a volume-driven favorable variance. Next slide. So that brings us to the year-to-date, where we're $8.5 million loss for the year. You can see again, it's almost $14 million unfavorable budget to the net operating revenue, about $5 million favorable on the operating expense. You know, same story, that it's not completely favorable on a volume-driven basis. But what I'm going to do in the next slide is talk a little bit more about the net revenue piece. Been trying to look at ways to evaluate net revenue in terms of the major drivers. And, you know, generally you look at net revenue as either a volume variance or a rate variance. And then within the rate variance, you can kind of break that into a few things, such as a different mix of services than you budgeted. And services have different gross charges with them. It can be related to your payer mix, since our payers pay at different rates. It can be related to our case mix and how well we're documenting the work that's being done for the patient. And it can, you know, be related to, you know, our ability to collect our collections, so whether it be that we budgeted more favorably for collections, or that we're just still have items that are aged or taking longer to collect than the standard time. We have all of those things. So really what this shows you is it's a fairly, between the big three, it's a kind of a fairly even split, with, you know, the volume related variances being about 29%, the service mix at about 28%, and the collections at about 29%. I also factored in here QAF and DISH, which is the pink there at about 13%, because, you know, we did budget, at the time we were budgeting, we knew or expected a QAF 9 to be coming. We didn't know exactly the timing. We assumed that some of that would be more towards the end of 26. But the way we actually, book accruals and things for the co-op and dish payments is a bit more of a evenly spread. So right now there's some, you know, potential Quack 9 budgeted dollars that we're not yet collecting. So that is a portion of our, net revenue variance. You know, of the 14 million, it's about 1.7 million. Next slide. Okay, so, month-to-date stats. You know, we were a little higher in our case mix this, month, which is good. It, you know, generally means, that, we're capturing everything appropriately or hopefully capturing, more in the physician record, for the patient. I did take a little deeper dive because with our smaller volumes, sometimes it only takes a few cases to really move the needle on case mix. And so I looked there and looking at about 330 cases, 23 of them really had higher case mix than kind of our average and were what was related to driving up the CMI. So that's about 7% of the cases. You know, the reason we put a lot of focus on the case mix is it really does drive reimbursement and sometimes drives us to a higher level DRG, which would result in more reimbursement for the work. And so if we're doing the work and it's well documented, then we can bill for it. Whereas if it's not well documented, we don't get the bill for it. We had the we had lower surgeries this month, not too far off on the inpatient surgeries. The outpatient surgery difference is basically the cath lab was not yet open in June. It's nice to say that it's now open, but I won't steal anybody else's thunder on that. And this month, I'd say the other thing, you know, it was pretty low census of just under 29 patients per day. And generally that's because we had a pretty low length of stay. The admissions were on spot, but length of stay was down. So, you know, from a year-to-date perspective, I just took a little deeper dive into, you know, our admissions and kind of patient data, you know, variances. Because those are kind of the more significant, and we're really seeing that when we compare it to 2024 year to date, we're about 23% down in our med-surg days, our ICU days. Really the only days that are up have been in the OB/GYN and NICU departments, and a little bit in telemetry. But generally speaking, the acute side has been down fairly more than we expected. We had budgeted, you know, to do more peds volume than could have been in those med-surg beds, but since we put a pause on that program for any of the patients under 14 years old, that is contributing to some of what we see here. And then we did see this month that our ER visits were down below where we had budgeted, and they have been kind of on a year-to-date basis. From a payer mix perspective, much like I reported last month, you know, when you just look at the number of admissions as a percent of total, pretty good. You know, commercial, we were at 17.5%. That's one of our stronger months. So I did do a little bit deeper dive into that to see the contribution on the net revenue side. And you know, this gets into that kind of service mix, lower length of stay, you know, sometimes case mix, because what we're seeing is that the gross charges per admission, and that's kind of the net charges, or the net revenue per admission is lower than what it was running last year. So there's, you know, something in the service mix that is just producing less revenue, even when we have some of the volume. I also just did that drill down on our managed Medi-Cal, since that's you know, generally the biggest chunk of our inpatient admissions, 39% this month, down a little bit from last month. And again, while the volumes are fairly similar month over month, we saw a lower length of stay And we saw this lower, charges and net revenue per, admission. Next slide. On the outpatient side, I took a similar look and I looked at, a couple of payers. The managed Medicare plans or your senior advantage plans, you know, they've been kind of creeping up, something that has been slow in this county to get more and more managed Medicare plans even available to the county, but you know, they've been creeping up, but again, that gross and net per visit is down a bit. And so we just see that the year-over-year change of lower dollars is again contributing to the net revenue. Commercial mix was good for the month, we were 26.3%. Not too far off on the that gross and net comparison. And you know, it's nice to see some of the growth that we're seeing there. We're seeing it in outpatient visits, we're seeing it sometimes in our ER visits. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, or I'll try to mention it. But, you know, one of the things we've been tracking is that Kaiser volume that is coming from the Salinas LOB that opened this year. And we have seen some ramp up and increasing trends there. Next slide. So this is kind of a waterfall report to show what's really been driving that $8.5 million EBITDA loss as it relates to the initiatives that we budgeted for. And since I've already gone into some details on the kind of net revenue piece, this kind of focuses on the other pieces. I realize this is kind of small, so I'll just, you know, kind of quickly take you through and probably not even hit every one of them. But the blue side is the things that are producing favorably to what we budgeted on an EBITDA side. And the orange is what's kind of drawing away from the EBITDA and not meeting what we had targeted. So on the blue side, some of the bigger blue bars relate to how we've been managing our supply expense with the lower volumes, how we have been doing some supply work to get contract tiers correct, to get better rates. We currently have a interim supply chain director who's done a lot of work in a short period of time on this and identified other opportunities that we continue to pursue. We've had our loan forgiveness with the county since we were supporting the pediatric transfer unit out of the emergency room. That project has come to a close, but we were able to get a nice loan forgiveness from the county on that. The pharmacy 340B program, now that it's up and running, it's still growing, it's still feeling some of its growing pains, but Jennifer's done a nice job with it, and we are seeing some nice savings there. On the unfavorable side, you know, the largest one is really, you know, the amount of money and fees that we've put into trying to stand up a radiology group. We knew we were going to have increases year over year through the transitions we've gone through. And so that's what we're seeing there. And then the second largest is really the productivity piece related to lower volumes and trying to staff. We have a lot of work of people trying to, you know, figure out how to staff down, but as I mentioned, you know, that's just a very challenging thing to do. And then the third one is the lack of peds volume that we did not. We had budgeted thinking we were going to do something different with peds than what we've done, and so that is a contributor. Everything else, you know, there's the cath lab in there, the LED light project. So those things are now starting to take off, and we're hoping to turn the tide a little bit. At this point, a little too early to tell how much of that tide will turn and how quickly. But it's nice to have a couple of these things going from kind of not in progress to in progress. Next slide. I just want to jump quickly. I'm going to give a quick budget update. We're taking, you know, we kind of kicked off the 2026 budget. We're taking more time up front this year to really work on budgeted volumes, both at the high level stats, such as patient days, admissions, discharges, as well as the department level stats. We're comparing it to kind of how we forecast out the rest of the year, which, is a bit of a moving target, and then, what the kind of last rolling 12 months has looked like. And then, we have not yet put in additional volumes for things like a new MRI machine, a second CT scanner. We're gonna layer those on top. And at this point, we're even just gonna layer the cath lab on as a new initiative, since we don't really have a run rate there yet. Once we kind of solidify the volumes, which I think we're making it dynamic enough that we can adjust if we have to, but we do plan on pretty much solidifying them during the month of August, because that really helps drive the gross revenue budget, the salaries and supplies, and to a lesser extent, a few of the other expenses. We're working on some of our inflation factors. That's, just research and checking, reading the tea leaves. But a couple that we do know about, we have our union contracts settled. We don't have anything coming up between now and the beginning of 26. So we kind of know where those will fall in the 2 to 3% range. And we know what our benefits. We've already met with the benefits broker. It's a hard pill to swallow, but lines up very well with what I read in the Wall Street Journal about, healthcare benefit costs going up across the board everywhere with most of the major payers. And ours is 14%, which is most of what I've read is in the 15 to 20 +%. And something we'll be talking about a little bit later here, the largest unfavorable impact and biggest unknown going into this budget is going to be this impact of the budget bill. And so as we continue to kind of work on that, as well as our own projections about our operations, we'll be using that to try to set our EBITDA target for next year. Next slide. So I'm not gonna spend too much time here. These are draft volumes, and as I said, they're a little bit fluid right now as we watch what the volumes have been doing the last month or so. We start out trying to say most of the things are in the 1 to 2% range, but then as volume drops off a little bit, it makes the forecasted percentages over the rolling 12 months look a little greater. So we'll kind of confirm our assumptions on that and potentially tighten them up a bit. But most of these things, we tend to look at a 3-year average and look for outliers and anomalies and smooth those out a bit. Slide, this should be the last one. Are trying to plan for some additional surgery volumes. We've had some holes this year. We've got the cath lab coming up. We've got some good recruiting efforts going on. So, we do have a few things in there. As I mentioned, we'll continue to refine those. And then, this year has been a strong year with deliveries. So, I think where we're kind of projecting to end this year out as opposed to a rolling 12 puts it more that our delivery percentage increase was in the 2.5 or 3% range, but it shows a 6. And with that, I'll take questions.
Any questions for Julie on the financial performance update? No?
Yeah, as always, it's noting that the finance committee at our last finance committee meeting, we spent a lot of time in the state. And we'll continue to express my appreciation to Julie and her even smaller team that's working on this. You're doing a really nice job of finding time to dive into what's the underlying causes. I know there's a lot more aspirations you have, but I just, again, continue to appreciate the passion, the commitment, and the transparency when you're delivering this information.
That's a comment. I was sort of impressed by the new revenue cycle guy, whose last name Russell, Mike.
Yeah,
Russell.
Mike Russell. Yeah, we're very lucky to have him. We started 2 weeks ago, so in week 3, he is diving into all kinds of things, and he's got a lot of great ideas, a lot of passion for this, and so we're very pleased to have him on board.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, I'll open up to public comment. Anyone online wish to speak about this item? As item number 4, the Chief Financial Officer monthly financial performance update.
No hands on mine.
Anyone with us here looking to speak on this item? No? Okay, I'll close it on the public comment and thank you, Julie, for the report. All right, we'll move on to the Chief Executive Officer report. Steve, whenever you're ready.
So Julie mentioned my topic, and it's really kind of become the elephant in the room over the last 3 or so weeks since it was signed, and it's the, we're just gonna call it HR1, that's the formal name of it. And my whole presentation is really just to give an idea of what that looks like for us going forward. We've, Julie and I have spent the last couple of weeks drilling into the numbers and using Allison, our government and community relations expert, to understand the bill and to try to translate it into financial dollars for Watsonville Community Hospital. So that's what I'm gonna try to walk you through here over the next 8 or 10 slides. And it starts with this slide, which is a screenshot from the California Hospital Association. So they did an analysis and wrote a memo on the impact of HR1 on all hospitals across California. So their analysis showed a low estimate of $66 billion over 10 years to a high estimate of $128 billion over 10 years. That's the left column and the right column respectively on this chart here. The first bullet points are in red, and those are about the hospital fee program. So in the bill, these are referred to as provider taxes. And in California, it's the hospital fee program, or what Julie typically calls it is the quality assurance fee program, or QAF. So we'll just refer to it as QAF for the rest of the presentation, but that's what we're talking about here is the hospital fee program. And in the California Hospital Association's low estimate, they're estimating in that scenario, QAF 9, which is the next program that's up for approval, is approved. So that would be the low estimate, and the sort of the better case scenario is that it gets approved. The other things are pretty much going to happen anyways. These are not unknowns, they're pretty much known. And so our state directed Medi-Cal payments will be going down, they'll be capped. The provider program, the fee program, or the provider tax, or QAF, will start to get capped in 28 and going beyond that, down to significantly lower than it's hoped to be for QAF 9 by 2032. And because of the bill, the overall bill adds to the deficit, then sequestration rules require that there are Medicare cuts. So the bottom line on the good estimate is a 14% reduction in Medi-Cal revenue and a 4% reduction in Medicare revenue. On the high estimate, the really bad case scenario is that that QAF 9 is completely denied, so that it's just not even cut a little bit or amended, but just rejected entirely, and that the fee program going forward is eliminated. Medicare cuts are still there, so that doesn't change the 4% reduction in Medicare, but brings the reduction in Medi-Cal revenue up to 30%. So looking at just the bottom lines of these, 66 billion over 10 years to 128 billion over 10 years, depending on the low or the high estimate for CHA. Watsonville Community Hospital's Medi-Cal net revenue represented 0.073% of all California hospitals' Medi-Cal net revenue in 2023. So if we just use that percentage and just layer that on top of the 66 to 128 billion, that's a $48 million to $93 million impact to Watsonville Hospital for the next 10 years. So that sounds terrible. And the next few slides will actually show you that it's actually worse than that. Because we are beholden and reliant upon the QAF program more than the average California hospital is. So if you look here on my bullets on the left, the second bullet down, in QAF 8, the one that we're in now, we are getting 0.33% of the net benefit of the QAF program over compared to the rest of all California hospitals. So that's four times higher than our percentage of overall Medi-Cal revenues, right? So CMS's decision, I say that CMS is the one that ultimately decides what happens with QAF 9. And it's in their hands now. It's been in their hands since March when the state submitted it to them. And they have indicated, or there are indications that it will be approved maybe December, if not maybe after the first of the year. Not approved, but we'll get a decision from them, right, one way or the other. So taking all that into account, the 2026 dollars don't really get affected that much because we're still in QAF 8 and 26. So revenue reductions are looking like 3.5 to 5.5 million for next year, but they go up every year after that. And they could go up by significantly more than that every year after that if QAF 9 is significantly reduced or worst case scenario outright denied. So didn't feel like we had enough information to really put numbers on here for 29 and beyond. But we know that even if QAF 9 is approved for the coming years, there's still going to be an overall reduction in the QAF program starting in 28. Because that program starts to get capped, and that cap starts to go down until 2032. So these are our projected revenue reductions over the next few years. Again, plus the unknown of the QAF 9 decision, which could make these numbers worse. And that is the end of those slides. I'm going to stop and see what questions.
Any questions about either of those slides or in general? It's a lot of acronyms and numbers in that.
I mean, just clarifying Harvard discussion, and I appreciate Steve pulling this together. These are really rough assumptions based on what we know now. Things will change or can be.
Yeah.
I respect that you have a lot of different assumptions that speak for volume expectations and from the federal policy changes. So just noting that these are estimates right now, and I appreciate it.
And to that point, we don't know what the state is going to do yet.
Yeah.
Right? They could step in and help. They could make it worse. We don't know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Another comment. I know we just finished our financial report. This is looking forward, talking about the order of magnitude that our policy has on us. Right now with our status of our balance sheet and low cash, high accounts payable. Our net revenue or EBITDA is down this year more than we expected. We're at an $8 million variance right now. We're just not in a strong position to absorb these types of hits. This is something that when it happens, it's going to force us to kind of go back to our recovery plan and revisit what else. I expect we'll have to, it's going to be hard for us to absorb this without more changes, and so just an unfortunate outcome of elections last year that led us to this moment. But I'm gonna stop there. I have a lot more commentary. I'll just stop there. Just appreciate it again, helping us understand the level of magnitude so we can start planning forward about how to continue to keep this hospital serving our community for the next generations.
Any other questions before Steve moves along? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thanks. I'm going to hand it over to Phyllis here in a second, but I do want to continue Jen Gavin's comments and finish them up by thanking Jen Gavin and the work of the pharmacy and therapeutics team for the gold status on antimicrobial stewardship too. She of course didn't thank herself, so I wanted to make sure that that was part of her comments. So thanks again, Jennifer. And now it's your turn.
Okay, so deep breath, that was a lot and pretty heavy, so I've got some good news, as you heard, from Julianne, so the cath lab opened. So July 22nd, we did our first case in the cath lab. It was a long time coming, and now we continue to iterate, so that's the day we begin, and now we continue to work on the cath lab. So working on some of the kinks of the workflows, working on physician presence, having conversations every day and doing lots of work around that. So super excited that we finally got there, and now we just have to iterate and continue to build that business. I have some physician updates for you. We've been doing a lot of physician recruiting. I first want to call out that this week is Sarah Brandt's last week here at Watsonville Community Hospital. We are having a celebration tomorrow. I think the invite went out to everybody. So just really want to thank her for her service. She's moving to Seattle to be close to family, and we will miss her. And so not that there's replacing of Sarah Brandt, but just bringing on another physician. We have made some initial offers, and we'll have moving more to this group as those get solidified. So bringing on general surgery, bringing on an orthopedic surgeon, as Steve and Julie both alluded to, that we do have a radiology group. They've now been with us a month. We're already seeing improvement in the clinical reads, in their presence. We've had a lot of kudos from providers who really appreciate their accessibility and their work. So very excited about that. We have, I think for the first time, at least in my awareness, that we have a fully covered CCU with intensivists in August. That means in-person coverage. This is a first. It's a really big deal. That means that we are able to admit higher acuity patients because we do have in-person intensivists in our CCUs. This is a really big deal. We continue to work through contracting for hospital services. I think probably next month I'll have a better update for you on that one, but all of that to say that we are continuing in a positive direction, trying to build revenue, trying to bring services, really bringing up the level of physician services to our community. So super excited about that. We have had a lot of survey activity. I think most of you probably are aware we had a joint commission survey. It was an unannounced, it was our triangle survey. That was last week. They were with us for several days. Very complimentary of our staff, of our facility, of the work that we do with the little bit of resources that we have. There are some findings, as there always are. You know, we pay them to come in and tell us what's wrong, so not a big surprise. We do have some higher level findings, and we are expecting a resurvey on some of those. So we're busy doing mock surveys this week. A lot of meetings every single day, looking at how do we just kind of scan the environment, because you know, anytime you have regulators in the hospital, you are subject to the lowest common denominator. So all of that is happening. We did have a phone outage recently, so we pulled together our incident command and did a lot of things. I'm sad to say we've had more than one of these. I think we might be getting good at it, which is, I'm not sure that's a good thing, but there you go. Hoping that we've got some fixes, and we've got some phone numbers now to get more rapid response. You may have noticed as you came to the hospital today that we have some signage, new signage updates. If you didn't notice, go out and look. It's got our new hospital logo, so super excited about that. Let's see. Another thing you may have noticed if you come into the hospital, we have done a lot of work with workplace violence. We have a very active committee that includes both staff and leadership for workplace violence. I want to thank my co-conspirator, Margaret, who I think is on the line today. In doing that, this committee's only been upstanding for about 4 months. We have implemented wanding of all folks coming into our facility to make sure that there are no weapons. We have increased our signage regarding what is acceptable and not acceptable behavior. We also were able to procure metal detectors. Those have not been deployed yet because we're working through policy changes, but we are going to be early adopters of that. There is a legislation that goes into place in 2028 where hospitals are required to have metal detectors at every entrance. We are going to be way ahead of the times. So very excited about that work. We've changed our policy regarding off-duty law enforcement. When they come to our facility, we now have a locked gun box. We do not allow weapons at our facility. So that is new, and that is, I think, really great work considering the environment we find ourselves in every day. You hear about workplace violence in healthcare facilities. So we're really being very proactive. I did announce last month that we were opening the cafe on August 1st. Because of some permitting issues, that's not happening until September 1st, so I'm sorry to say, it's not opening on Friday. We have to go through some permitting with the city and county related to, our kitchen license. And last but not least, spending some Measure N dollars. You may have noticed that we have brighter lights in our facility. We've already started our LED light project, so that's really exciting. That's gonna save us some money. We are working on our EV design, which is part of Measure N, and last but certainly not least, have begun the project planning for the installation of the new MRI and CT scanner. So spending some money, Measure N money, but this is great because we'll be able to tell our community what their money has purchased. And that's probably enough for me.
Any questions about either of those things? What's the holdup with the city and the county of the kitchens?
We didn't really realize we had to enhance our permit for the cafe. We just covered, but no, we have to redefine.
Right.
our-
It's like a retail permit.
Yeah.
So we gotta expand the services.
Yes,
to the-
exactly. So didn't realize that until like, oh yeah.
Is it moving forward though? You're
It
saying-
is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I've got a giant project plan. September 1st, we've hired. We're ready. You can come have your burrito.
Just, I ask, just in case, either one of the five of us can do some
Okay,
pushing at either of those two offices.
well, I will be certain to look into that, because it's exciting. Staff is excited, physicians are excited. It's a great thing for.
Anything that could help to generate additional revenue and those things,
Yeah.
talking to the right person
Happy to.
tends to move it forward. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
No question, I get more comments, just I'm impressed with everything we're getting through, and your any comment was cute, and I'd love to hear more, so don't feel like, they're really, really important.
I talk a lot, but.
But we still probably all could do a better job celebrating our accomplishments. And,
Well,
you know,
we toggle between, dealing with stuff, the finance stuff is really tough. There's
Yeah.
also a lot of really good stuff. So we
Yeah.
have to balance.
Great, thank you.
And I do just have to publicly acknowledge Phyllis. I mean, she's taken on a lot with taking on both the nursing and the operations updates now. And she's just updating on them, right? But she's working her butt off on all of them every single day. So I just really appreciate it. You've done a great job on that presentation. I wanted you to have the opportunity to say all the good
All the
things
good
because you're working on the good things. So even though there's a lot of things that are really challenging right now and things that are weighing on us, there's definitely things that are going in the right direction. I appreciate you and your team.
The team effort. It's a great team.
As I'm thinking about it, I'm curious, you mentioned the lockbox for law enforcement. How was that received by law enforcement?
Not well.
Yeah.
Because.
Are there things, to Tony's comment, are there things we can help with?
Well, and it's interesting because we meet with law enforcement on a regular basis. But it's really funny when the rubber hits the road, you tell them. Because technically, they're supposed to have a lockbox in their vehicles for their weapons. And sometimes we've heard, oh, I'm driving my wife's car today. Right? And I have to call somebody else because my friend brought me, and they're coming for treatment often. So while my coworker brought him, he doesn't have it up front of mine, it's like, well, you can't get him here.
Yeah.
So, but we're getting through it. Interestingly, since you asked the question, we have people who are very upset about the bonding. So wait till the metal detectors come. They get really a little bit ouchy about it. It's like, well, have you been to an airport lately? It's a different environment and people are like taken back that we're going to want their stuff and tell them if you have things that are in there, please take it to your vehicle. You can't have weapons and, people carry knives on their pockets. People have stuff and they can't bring it into our hospital.
Right. When we started it, there was probably one a day where somebody just got really irritated at the front door because they were being wanted or they were being told to put something back in their car. It's gone down a lot, so I don't know if we have a lot of repeat visitors and they're just getting used to it, but I think we've also worked with security guards on the scripting, so it's gotten a little better, but it was rough for the security guards when they first had to start it.
Yeah, it's
They're
been an
great.
evolution,
They're doing great.
but this is the world, and then now there's going to be requirements in the state of California at least to have, metal detectors at every entrance. So I will tell you, our staff are very appreciative of it because we have had people come in with weapons in their pockets and they make it all the way to the nursing unit. And that's a scary environment, you know, and so we don't want anybody to ever.
And I mean, just my personal experience of having a loved one here, I believe in the second floor or whatever it was. Definitely after hours, you just kind of walk in, you take the elevator up there and there's very few checkpoints.
Yeah.
You're walking in. So this is all great stuff.
Yeah,
All
we
meetings,
have so
yeah.
many entrances to our facility, and it creates a lot of vulnerability. And it's, you know, we just talked this week about, you know, how do we keep people who come in through the ED entrances, we lock the front, but there's no, I mean, we're not tackling them, so there
Right.
are people wandering the units, and so it's really tough, and it puts people at risk.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we'll now move on from item number 5 to item number 6, the 2026 benefits insurance renewal. And I believe Margaret was online.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Yes, Margaret, give me just a moment to pull up the presentation, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Rosie.
Give me just a moment to pull up your presentation.
Oh, sure, of course. And yeah, I wish this was on following the positive kind of vibe, but Julie did touch on this, and we recently received our 2026 benefits renewal rates from our broker. And as you recall, 2025, this current year was our first year of being a member of the PRISM risk sharing pool for most of our benefits, and in particular our medical plans, which are of course are the biggest expense. And the pool renewal for all the members for medical is a 14.2% increase. And you're going to see some of the details on these costs in another slide. But so that means for 2026, the total cost for medical is $16,355,000. And that's a $2,033,000 increase. The employer increase part of that is because we pay 96.5% of the cost overall, and that's a $1.9 million increase for the employer share. Some of the employees pay 5%. As you recall from some of our contract negotiations, we were able to get a 5% with some stipulated, percentages of increases as each plan year comes about. We were not successful with that with SEIU, so they have fixed rates. So overall, the cost share for employees is 3.5% of that 16 million. For all other lines of coverage, mostly there's no increase. We do have dental separate from PRISM, and that is a 14% increase. A lot of that is going to be absorbed by employees with the buy-up plan, because probably about 3/4 of our employees went for the increased plan benefits. And so they're paying a bigger share of that dental plan. And then we have a small increase for our EAP program, but we have life, disability, vision. Those are all going to be no cost increase for next year. Okay. Next slide, Rosie. So here's the reasons that are driving these costs. Again, these are all information that PRISM provides to all their members, us being one. So again, these are the pooled claims, the pooled costs for the year, and medical claims all up. You can see excess, large claims, RX claims, GPL1 cost. Now, we don't particularly have that benefit in our plan, widespread, but some of the members do of this shared pool. And then an increase in cancer spend. And then a lot of market cost drivers are going to be the inflationary reasons. Just everything costs more. There's a new regulatory SB 729 that you'll see that in a slide that talks about what's new for next year. And that mandates including infertility treatment to a certain extent. And then the cost of specialty drugs and advanced technology, some other, environmental situations going on with just people in general. And mental health services is increased, which probably is no surprise for most Americans. Next slide, please. And here's the detail that I kind of summarized. The middle columns talk about this year's costs and the employer versus employee share. And then the last four columns are about the renewal year. Okay. I don't know if you want to look at this any longer, otherwise we can move on.
Yeah, maybe we pause for questions here from the board. Margaret, if that's okay.
Sure.
Any questions about this or any just general comments? I just let it wash over you for 30 seconds or so, I guess.
Yeah, I had mentioned the 16,354,000. That's the first three rows, line items for medical plans. Total cost, and then the employees pay about 600,000 of that, which is about 3.5% overall.
Margaret, if you could, I was looking at the employee count and large majority in Anthem and,
Yeah,
and Kaiser.
Yes. Yeah, so the Anthem PPO is a really rich plan.
Yeah.
It's got a $200 deductible and, wide network. And yeah, that is the most popular plan.
As you mentioned, our cost share is really favorable to the employees, so they're not necessarily disincentivized to move from that plan.
Correct.
From a math financial standpoint. All right. If you don't mind, can you make this or have this come to the board through Rosie? I'd love to see if I have any other questions. It's also hard to see some of the numbers. Yeah. It's like I'm an eye test right now.
Yeah. Rosie has the slides. Rosie will send them. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Thank you.
And Margaret, do we have numbers on, just by like some simple subtraction, I could get there here with these numbers, but of how many employees opt out of this coverage, say they get their health insurance from their spouse or from a different way? Do we have a number on that?
I don't, but I think we have very few. At the very least, people who have other coverage would take the high deductible plan, which is zero cost to them. But yeah, I'll find out. I'll include that with Rosie's information that she passes along.
I imagine it's minimal, but and I'd like to see I'd like to find out that number.
Oh, I can tell you right now. Okay, see that 507, the HRA, that's the money, the $400 given to every benefit eligible employee. So if you do the 428
plus 35 minus that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 10, there's a 10 in the
that's right, that at the other end of the plan.
So 38, 68, so maybe 20, 25, 30 people opt out.
Oh, okay, those are fantastic numbers for employees.
Yes, it is.
They would all drop the other plan.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And Margaret, as you stated in the beginning, these are insurance quotes. The market hypothetically could still change, right? Or is Prism locking in our rates quickly?
Yeah, let me walk you how that works. So as I think Julie touched on as well, our broker said that if we weren't with the Prism, like, of course, we had to make a decision, are we going to stay with them? That it would be 20% more or more increase if we went back to self-insured or other types of fully funded plans. And how it works, this will be our second year. So the first year and the second year, to 2026 being the second year, you get the pooled increase, which is 14.2%. Starting for the third year, after they have a couple years of our own claims experience, then they take the pooled percentage, whatever it is for the year, for the whole pool, and then it can go up or down 7.5% on top of the pool or below the pool based on our own experience. So if we do better with our claims experience, then we would get less than whatever that pooled percentage would be, up or down 7.5%. If we do worse, it's higher than the pooled range, up to 7.5%. So it is capped, which, was one of the, incentives going with this program, because there is a cap on how much you would actually be getting as an increase for the next year based on the pool, though, but there's no cap on the pool. The pool percentage is going to be whatever, the group's risk sharing experience is. But in general, that would naturally keep it a little bit lower than just going on your own.
Margaret, this is for my knowledge, but when did we start offering the Kaiser HMO plan as an option for employees?
That's actually been before I've been here, so which is a while now. So I think it's been at least, I don't know, for those who have been here longer than me, it's
Started practice, I would think so,
new.
yeah.
It's not new.
You would. No, I know, but
But they started to.
2017, 17, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, obviously the Anthem plan, the PPO plan is favorable for the employee, but I'm wondering if there is, what the reason was for those 35 employees, if we have any kind of boots on the ground understanding of why they chose that plan over an Anthem one. Just
We may
wondering
have
if,
we may have some people in the room, they like their doctor, they like the copay structure.
Yeah, and that's generally the either location, I live up in Santa Cruz, close to Scotts Valley and Santa Cruz, MOB, doctor, some of the services that I'm getting that I want to continue without the disruption of changing the health plan. That sort of stuff.
okay, more of like individual independent decision making of,
Yeah.
I've had this doctor for X amount of years and I want to continue with this doctor. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, you know what? I think there's one or two, just real quick slides,
Please.
Rosie. All right. So just some updates. One of the things is the new SB 729 for next year. There's a couple provider changes or carrier changes. Tomorrow, Jennifer and Sandra and I are participating in a overview of Navitas, which will replace Express Scripts for next year and is supposed to be more cost effective, etc. So we're going to learn more about that. And then there's some weight management vendors that, they think is better for next year. So, and then last slide is what are some of the cost savings opportunities. We did launch this, and we worked with Jen again in pharmacy to try to get the word out to our employees, how they can save some money. And of course, the plan saves some money by participating in this kind of ongoing chronic condition medications. So it's one of the things that's already in place. Yeah. And that's what I have. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Margaret? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Margaret. Thank you for the
Okay.
presentation. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7. This is the community hospital reputation and Google ratings. This is going to be presented by Nancy Kieran, our Director of Marketing and Communications.
Okay, so I am gonna get to that, but before that, Steve asked me to give just a super quick update on the rebranding. It's been a year since I talked to this group and got the initial input on some of the early design, so it feels like it was a lifetime ago. But we've come a little way since then. Let's see. There we go. So, you know, we went from this to this, in the last year. We started with a wide assortment of logos that were, a little antiquated and, very diverse and moved to a cohesive, rebranding with the input of community members, Spanish, English, and Mixteco speaking focus groups gave us a lot of input. And this one rose to the top as the one that, resonated most with people and really reflected who they think we are as an organization. So, there's been a lot of activity going on. As Phyllis mentioned, this photo was actually just taken this morning. So I just wanted to share a little that it's been exciting to see this come to life with signage. This one here is actually in the back. When you come in through the ED, there never was a sign there that said Watsonville Community Hospital, just emergency room. So now we're identified as such, and good rebranding around the campus. And if you haven't been in the lobby since this went up, in addition to the hospital signage, the district signage is great to have there. So just a quick update there. So we'll move on. Improving our reputation one review at a time. So when we first became a nonprofit, obviously our reputation suffered because of everything that had happened. So this, people influence people. Nothing influences people more than a recommendation of a trusted friend. A trusted referral is the holy grail of advertising. Any guesses who might have said that? So yeah, make sure that. Well, love him or hate him, Mark Zuckerberg knows a lot about people influencing people. But truth be told, I mean, it really is the holy grail of advertising, right? We can talk about how great we are. We can say we have X, Y, and Z, and we care for our patients and yada, yada, and people go, yeah, every hospital says that, right? But when they actually hear their friends and neighbors talking about us in a positive way, that's really what we're going for here, and why it's so important. So, as I started to say, you know, we had to really find a way to turn the tide after becoming nonprofit, and some of the things, you know, were out there and people were wondering, are they still even open and such? So we engaged a reputation management strategy to build up those positive testimonials that really reflected what was happening in the hospital. And so we've only been at this for not even quite almost a year now. Began asking patients to give us a star rating. So every time everyone comes in to either the ED or as an inpatient, as an inpatient after 24 to 48 hours after discharge, they get a text from us and asks just a simple, super simple, would you like to give us a rating? And there's the 5 stars, you pick your star and you go ahead and give us a rating if you'd like. And then if they want to further, they're asked if they want to make a comment, but if they want to just stop there, that's what they do. So the goals here obviously were to improve the ratings and leverage those testimonials, and then also to optimize our search engine. So Google rewards you if for the content of the reviews that are out there about you, the recency of the reviews. So we're getting reviews every single day, literally. So it's great for the search engine results. We're on the top. And then how the business responds. So when people get that text and they give us a rating, we respond directly to them on their phone. But then also I've been going in recently and responding publicly to the 1 stars. And I think it's really important for any organization to show others who are looking at our reviews that, oh, this organization actually cares about someone who's not rating them well. But it also helps your search engine. So here's where we've been from 2020 to 2025. You can see, you know, right around the, you know, bankruptcy and all of that, how low our scores were. I mean, at 2.3 stars, that's a pretty bad rating. But we've gone all the way up up to a 4.49 average star rating. And these are just the stars, right? And then we go into, let's see, we look at the reviews. So this year, so far, we have 855 people who took the time to actually write a review. So there's actually, that's about 10% of the people who've given us, so it's almost 8,000 star ratings so far this year. But we want to take a look at this and see of these, you know, obviously the growth in total reviews jumped when we actively began asking for those reviews, right? And so that is what drives up your, you know, star rating. But then if you go and look at this graph shows the percentage, obviously of the 5-star ratings now is much greater than it was in the past. And while that's great, the green is the 5-star. What I'm excited about when I look at this is the red, the 1-star reviews, and how it's, you know, it used to be half or more of our people rating us for giving us 1-star reviews, so, and now we're down to 7%. So pretty incredible, what's happened in the last several years. This is, Steve's graph. Thank you for putting that together. And he's always looking at how we compare to our competitors. And you can see from, this is last year, August 22nd of 2024, when we started this program, we were at 2.7, and now we are at the top of all local hospitals for star ratings. So, yeah, people look at this and it says something about who we are and the kind of care that we provide. So I wanted to share a couple of samplings, and I'm going to read these. I was treated in the ER. I was seen fast, like my time meant something, but not rushed out the door. The doctor was pleasant, friendly. The nurse was awesome and understanding. It was my best visit at Watsonville Community Hospital. In the past, I felt I wasn't treated with respect or valued as a patient, but things have changed, and I will come here instead of driving Santa Cruz. And I just wanted to highlight a few of these because I think they also reflect how people's impressions are changing as we, you know, move into year, you know, 1, 2, 3, being nonprofit. Took my mom to physical therapy, really good experience. PT was engaging and encouraging her and looking forward to more sessions. Every time I've been to this hospital, the staff at every level were courteous and helpful. I chose to return here for the birth of my child because of the people who work here. Unlike larger hospitals, I felt I had personalized care and was supported by people who advocated for my needs. Well, each nurse, doctor, midwife, and my patient consultant was wonderful to talk to them. And they all took time to explain my care. Your area, but these are important because we want to promote people. We want to get people to come and have their babies with us, and so we can use these testimonials. You know, and stuff like this is where I'm in the process, for example, of just redoing the website section on for labor and delivery care. And we'll highlight some of these things, and they resonate with people. Okay, this one's long, but I have to read this. Our family member's been on the 3rd floor for a few days. He also recently spent a few weeks at the hospital at Stanford in Palo Alto. I want you to know that the experience here at Watson was so superior. There are private rooms compared to Stanford's crowded 2 beds to a room. Quiet instead of having a roommate that snores loudly and groans all the time. The view of the window are one of our wonderful Watsonville trees and hills. The food is good, the staff are wonderful and confident. Caring, we feel so blessed. Guess what? On this section of the hospital, there are a few empty beds, unheard of at Stanford. What this means is you and your loved one can be given a room when you need it. We are so fortunate to have this hospital here. Thank you, Watsonville community, for supporting it. So many pieces of messaging. A lot of what this does too, it helps me understand what resonates with and what's important with our community. I mean, this is messages to the donors who are supporting us. There are all kinds of things in here, the private rooms. And I'll share with you in a second how some of this translates into our content and marketing. And lastly, excellent service, both doctors, nurses, caring, conscientious, and expert. If I had to get sick, I'm lucky I live near Watsonville Community Hospital. So yeah, just some good news here on what people are saying about us. So this is one way it's applying. This is on the homepage. If you go on our homepage and you scroll down just a little bit, there's this dynamic section here. These are all from within the last 2 weeks. So, anytime anyone goes on our website, they'll see reviews of people who were just in the hospital. And this, behind this is an AI that actually gives it a score where it looks at all the 5-star reviews, gives it a score. It only takes the best of the best comments. But sometimes people can give you a 5-star review and then there's some, it's like, everything was great, except for this one little thing. So we don't want to put those. So these are really, it's nice that, you know, from an outward marketing standpoint, we're sharing what people are saying about us. And then finally, this is also on the homepage. If you scroll down a little more to some of our, and so this came right from that review. I read that and I went, what? Oh, yeah, we gotta say that. We have to really promote that. It just, so it's really helping to drive our marketing content. And it's always true that when you use the words of the people you're serving and that, those sentiments that it resonates. Yeah, so questions on that? Thoughts? All right,
Questions, thoughts?
yeah,
English and Spanish,
pardon?
both English and Spanish.
We don't, no, it's not, I mean, well, on the website, if you go, you can certainly, it'll translate it into Spanish if you toggle, there's a little button on the bottom left. Yeah, but I'm not getting Google reviews written in Spanish, if that's what you're asking. Yeah. All right.
Any other questions for Nancy? Or comments, I guess, at this point?
Could you go back to the Google review comparison? Was that reading that right?
This one?
No, the chart.
She wants to see my slide.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, this one?
could have said it that way too. Wow.
Yeah, so you have, if you can read it, Salinas Valley, Chomp, Dominican, Natividad, and Sutter.
That's over, what's the period on the bottom?
And this is a year, from August, about a year, August 22nd, 2024, till now.
Wow.
Pretty incredible, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
stand up and take a bow.
Yeah.
Feels pretty
So
good.
not only what we're placed, but like Salinas Valley, I would have, I'm also surprised how low they are.
Yeah, they're all the, Monterey, actually, that's a little higher than I thought they were, but, yeah. They're in the 3s, and it comes about a 4, so, yeah.
Okay. And as before, I'm sure you Rosie doesn't have already, you can get this added to the agenda packet or have it sent over to the board.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. You're really helpful to talk to folks.
Any other questions for Nancy or any comments? I appreciate the quote. I don't like the person, but I agree with what he says. And I think the data shows that, and there's been multiple recent studies over the last couple of years that are like, as a former reporter, just really concerning and scare the hell out of me. Like, there's the average person says that they get their news, their national news from social media now. And television news is now in 2nd or 3rd place. And then written news is, I think, like 6th or 7th, which is kind of crazy. So that tells me word of mouth really matters to people. And then locally, another study, I think it was by Pew, found that where people are getting their local news, it's not even television news anymore. It's not the local newspaper, it's their friends, family, and neighbors.
Yeah.
Which is scary, I think, and says a lot about the situation we're in right now politically and nationwide. But I think this is a really smart investment of time because we don't have money to invest into marketing. So just a great job overall, Steve, Nancy, putting this together and seeing this is low hanging fruit that we can use to inform a marketing plan and a way to turn around the conversations that are happening in our community about our hospital. So just appreciate your work on this.
Low hanging but important.
Important. Yeah, sure.
You're right, there's a lot of just mistrust in general of media, anything that's put out to you. You know, but these are actually real people. You can go on, Google and see the people's names and and know that they're from, so. Yeah. All
Now,
right.
how do we get this in front of doctors, right? So they can send their patients here. That's important. Thank you.
That's.
Okay, so I'll adjourn the Watsonville Community Hospital Board meeting